Now that the NBA Finals is over and the Oklahoma City Thunder have officially won the title, I've been meaning to make this video because I got a lot of footage from this series, Game 1 to Game 7. If you haven't seen this series in its entirety, you missed a couple of key plays, games even, and you just didn't really get to appreciate what happened. Don't worry, I got you. Like, share, and subscribe. We're about to go through the key moments of each game. I obviously can't get every little thing, but this is going to be just enough so you can understand what happened. All right, without further ado, let's get it.
I thought our conversion on the turnovers in the first half hurt us a little bit. Like, we didn't get the kind of juice for that squeeze that we normally do when we turn teams over. So we can take a look at that. You know, you tip your hat to them. They made plays. They've done it all playoffs. This is part of their identity. They have a lot of belief. They never think they're out of it, so they play with great confidence even when their back's against the wall. They proved that tonight, and you know, to me, that's a game that they went and got, and it's a game that we can look at and improve in a lot of different areas.
Game 1 of the NBA Finals ended in a crazy way, but before I get into that, let's talk about what the coach said specifically with the turnovers. As I was watching this first game, I thought, man, this is why the OKC Thunder are really the legitimate favorites to win the title. Their defense is just harassing the Pacers. This is not looking good. I'm thinking, man, is this series going to be over very quickly? Who on the Pacers is a superstar that could really score and even handle this defense when it's coming at them at this pace? So the Indiana Pacers during this game, they had 24 turnovers in total. Lou Dort, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Alex Caruso all had 3 or more steals in this game, and the OKC Thunder themselves only had 6 total turnovers in this entire match. So it's not like the Pacers were ultimately matching what they were doing themselves and playing some out-of-this-world defense. Now, with all that said, let's get into this fourth quarter that I was talking about, how the game ended really crazy, because you would think the way that the OKC Thunder were playing, they were going to win. They were up double digits in the fourth quarter, and then the Pacers just hit these tough three-point shots that you're seeing on the screen, and slowly the lead is dwindling a little bit. Miles Turner is hitting a banker off the dribble. You're gonna see Miles Turner hit another shot once again. The Pacers were hitting clutch basket after clutch basket, and slowly the lead just evaporated, and then all of a sudden they made this miraculous comeback as they've been doing this whole playoff run, and they won the game, and it's gonna be capped off with Tyrese Halliburton dribbling the ball up and then hitting the shot for the game winner. For the record, Halliburton struggled throughout this game. He started picking it up in the second half, really the fourth quarter, when he ended up hitting this shot to give him a total of 14 points with 10 rebounds, however, and 6 assists. Game 2, to be honest, there wasn't really much to get into. It was pretty much a blowout from the start. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 34 points and 21 shot attempts. But as you're seeing on the screen, these are plays between Aaron Wiggins and Alex Caruso. These were the heroes of this game, in my opinion, because they came off the bench and combined for 9 3-pointers in total. Aaron Wiggins had 18 points in about 21 minutes, and Alex Caruso had 20 points in 27 minutes. It should be noted that no one on the Pacers scored 20 points in this game, and they were outscored in every quarter except for the fourth.
TJ just brought a competitive will to the game. Mathurin jumped in there and immediately was aggressive and got the ball in the basket. And look, this is the kind of team that we are. We need everybody to be ready. It's not always going to be exactly the same guys that are stepping up with scoring and stuff like that, but this is how we got to do it.
That was Rick Carlisle after Game 3, talking about the huge games that T.J. McConnell and Benedict Mathurin had coming off of the bench. Benedict Mathurin, 27 points in 22 minutes on 9 of 12 shooting. T.J. McConnell in just 15 minutes not only gave 10 points, but also 5 assists and 5 steals. He was just a menace on the defensive side of the ball, and that's the most highlights that you're seeing of him. And then Benedict Mathurin with the scoring. Now, Tyrese Halliburton did have 22 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds, but it was the bench that to me really stood out, and that's why you're seeing these highlights of these guys really balling out.
Oh, it's unbelievable. He really didn't have it going. A lot of the night he was laboring. We had a hard time shaking him free, and for him to be able to flip the switch like that and get the rhythm he got is, just speaks to how great of a player he is.
SGA was kind of under wraps in the fourth quarter. He had like 15 by himself. Did you see anything? Was he figuring something out? What did you see from your vantage point?
So game 4, SGA struggled for the first 3 quarters for his standards, and then in the fourth he explodes for 15 points. A lot of these baskets he's hitting when OKC is down with less than 5 points and there's less than 5 minutes in the game. And although SGA finished with a total of 35 points, he did have no assists in this game, which was something else that was brought up in conversations. But it was Jalen Williams, as you see on these plays, who really saved the game in my opinion, because during those 3 quarters when SGA was struggling, it was him who really put the team on his back and kept them just close enough where SGA could take over in the fourth quarter and do his thing in the first place. And Jalen Williams finished with 27 points on 8 of 18 shooting. The biggest thing that stood out to me was he did a lot more ball handling. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played a lot more off the ball during this game, which could be why he didn't record any assists, but that is still a little bit weird. Nonetheless, the Thunder get the win. I also need to mention Alex Caruso off the bench in 30 minutes scored 20 points and also had 5 steals. Look, the Thunder could have easily lost this game. They were down in the fourth quarter late when the game was about to be over. If the Pacers won this game, they would have went up 3-1. It would have been a completely different series, and I would have been maybe talking about how the Pacers stole a championship and got one of the biggest upsets in NBA history.
Coming into the season, the thought was that either Dub or Chet was going to have to step forward to be the second guy next to Shai to get you guys to this level.
Yeah, respectfully, we don't look at it like that in terms of, second guy, first guy, third guy, anything like that.
Why do you think Dub has been able to come through the way he has, especially over his last few games in the series?
There's times earlier in the season where, he had some ugly plays and ugly games, trying to establish the type of force that you saw tonight. And I complimented him back then, but he's trying to make an all-star team. He's an all-NBA player this season.
This was the Jalen Williams coming out party. He scored 40 points on 25 shots. You hear the coach saying, yeah, we don't really have a pecking order. I'm basically paraphrasing, and we don't do the number 1 or 2 option. But listen, I think if you really ask him behind closed doors, he knows behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you need somebody else who could be that quote-unquote Scottie Pippen, that Robin, however you want to phrase it. And I'm going to say this. Out of all the games, even though Shai had 31 points and 10 assists, in this one, this was the best performance out of anybody on both teams that I saw. Jalen Williams flat out looked like a number 1 option in this game. And the beauty of it was he wasn't doing anything pretty fancy. He was just attacking the basket and playing very aggressive, got in the lane when he wanted to. Overall, OKC goes up 3-2 from here now. Another side note that needs to be mentioned, Tyrese Halliburton only scored 4 points in this game, was 0 for 6 from the field, no field goals made. He was dealing with some type of leg injury, which we'll get into what happened in Game 7. His backup point guard, TJ McConnell, once again had a huge game. In 22 minutes, scores 18 points off the bench. Game 6, the Pacers blew out the OKC Thunder. It looked like they just felt like the Thunder themselves. Hey, we got a Game 7, don't worry about it. I gave Andrew Nembhard the player of the game for this one, though if you look throughout the box scores, it was slaughtered by committee, which is what I mentioned in one of my shorts. And Nembhard played excellent defense on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You're going to see this in a lot of plays. SGA had 21 points and 8 turnovers in this game and only 2 assists. By far his worst game of the series. And it's one of the reasons why I think they lost pretty big. He just didn't really get in the game and provide the Thunder the offense that they needed. Like I said, it was a blowout from the beginning. Not really much I can say here outside of the Pacers really having a total package from each player offensively, and then the Thunder getting nothing really from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Tyrese Halliburton, first 5 games of the finals, he shot just 29% from three-point range. But in Game 6 and so far tonight, he's hit 6 of the last 11. Halliburton's hurt right away when he fell.
Out of anything that I can mention in Game 7 that happened, SGA going for 29 points, 11-12 assists, the 5 blocks that Chet Holmgren had, and the overall game, both sides of the ball that he played. Jay Will struggling a little bit. Benedict Mathurin coming off the bench for the Pacers to having another really good game. It was this Tyrese Halliburton injury. The game was very close. Halliburton had 9 points early in the first quarter. He had been struggling throughout the series and still dealing with that injury, which ended up causing him to really be on pain on the floor. And then he goes out and leaves the game early, and the Thunder ended up winning. That is the biggest story and unfortunate one of Game 7, the what if. What if he was just healthy enough to finish the game? Would the Indiana Pacers have pulled out another comeback or just won the game pretty strong? Who knows? I'm going to end things here. Y'all let me know what you think of the whole series if you watched it, and anything else that I may have missed that you would want to point out for anybody who didn't see this series. All right, leave it in the comment section, like, share, and subscribe. And as always, salute for listening. Peace.